Good morning, friends. This is the 11th Sunday after Trinity. Trinity, many Sundays in Trinity, 25, 26 Sundays. It's the second half of the year where, little bit by little bit, we take the lessons from the first half of the church year, which starts on Advent for the Christian church, and we put those into effect. And these are the intents. Each week we get a new intent, a new place to focus, to just rest our thinking during the day when we first wake up. At the end of the day, most importantly, just rest on that intent. And the intent for the 11th Sunday is discernment. Very powerful. This is a very powerful intent. So let's explore what this means for us in our lives now. The collect says, and this is where we usually turn to for the keynote, the central thing, the collect. O God, whose never-failing providence ordereth all things, both in heaven and earth, grant that we may unfold within ourselves such discernment that we may avoid those things that be hurtful to the soul. Now, there's two ideas that are joined one after the other here, so we might miss the really crucial bit to start with, and then maybe get a little bit confused about what we should do. So let's just spend a minute on this. A God whose never faileth providence ordereth all things, both in heaven and earth. When we see that phrase, heaven and earth, we should think, we know we live and we know we die. And in our church, we have a clear understanding that our life continues. It's a different life after we die. But we are very clear on this in the Liberal Catholic Church. And so we might just generally call that heaven. It's all sorts of experiences, but what this opening phrase is saying is that God's law applies here, where we can see things and smell things and taste things and fall over things, all that sort of thing, and in extra life to come, additional experiences after death. And what is this? Never failing providence ordereth all things. So here it's just in one line. We should really just dwell on this. God is ordering all things. So you might say immediately, what happened to free will? I mean, you know, what happened to Haight-Ashbury and putting flowers in your hair and doing what you feel like? Well, fine, you can do that. It's just got nothing to do with God's law, that's all. And then what happens is you find you're sort of slightly out of alignment and it doesn't go so well. Or maybe it does, and maybe that's what you were meant to do. But here's the key thing. Discernment, the intent, leads us to what is that particular set of things for us in this life. And how do we use discernment to find that out? So that's what this Sunday is all about. That's what this discernment's all about. And then the second half, which I referred to, which I said doesn't sort of quite connect, maybe logically, but it connects spiritually. The second half of it is that we may avoid those things that are hurtful for the soul. In other words, if it takes us ages and ages and ages to work out what we should be doing, what is our unique role, and no one else can do this, no one else but you are on earth to do this. People might do sort of similar things, they might do it differently, you might think they do it better than you might think they do it worse than you, but it's going to be different. It's always going to be different. The thing that you're required to do by God's plan and by your compliance with it does not lead to hurtful things of the soul. Everything else does. What's hurtful things of the soul? Well, it comes back to cause and effect. So we've talked about this before, cause and effect. Sometimes people use the word karma. That's a word from the East, or a Sanskrit word. It means everything has to balance up. Or as my best friend at university used to call it, even Stevens. Everything happens the way that it happens. Why? Because you caused it. Big disappointment, big disappointment. And we sit there thinking with our toes sore because we've just stubbed it on a big rock, or we put our fingers in the door and closed it, and we say that hurts. We say, whose fault was that? Who did that to me? Me did that to me. We did that to me. That's what that is. In the alignment side of things, it does not bring that action. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting. Discernment. So, how do we get this? Well, the first epistle from St. Paul actually shines light on this. So he says, in the opening words that Matto read this morning in the epistle, we speak wisdom to them that are perfect. Another translation might read, we speak wisdom to them that have perfected themselves. So how do you perfect yourself? Well, our church has ideas about this and instructions about this, which go back thousands of years and are in alignment with the practices that are thousands of years old. And these practices are called the ancient wisdom. And they're all about purification, leading a good life, controlling your thoughts, being very careful the way you interact with other people. You've heard all this before, but these are very strict rules in the sense that you can't get away with anything. Nothing. And it's all on you and all on us. Does that sound grim? Well, it's got an upside. The upside is when you are doing it correctly, you make great progress and your life becomes enriched in a way which is difficult to describe, but it's very real and it's very meaningful. So, we speak wisdom among them that have perfected themselves, yet not the wisdom of this world. This is most important. It's not the wisdom of this world. So what's the wisdom of this world? Well, it's all sorts of things about how to get ahead, or what time is the bus coming, or what does the colour blue mean? That's all the stuff of this world. So this development, this alignment, this growing as a person using discernment is about spiritual things. And so spiritual things have their own language, and they have their own sort of stuff, their own matter, and they come into our lives and grow into our lives as we try to grow into a spiritual life. That's what Christians do. That's part of Christianity. That's what Christianity is all about, in a way, in the process of loving one another. That's in alignment with God's will, finding your path in alignment with God's will, and then being very careful about how you treat one another and how you treat yourself. How you treat yourself. We've spoken before about how Christians might view themselves. They might view themselves as a body. That's it. End of story. I'm just a body. We don't view it like that. We view ourselves as the Christ with us. Our body is connected to us, under our control, and we have the Christ within us. And we are so identified with the Christ that we are part of the Christ with the body. So it's the other way around, the way we think about things. And the fact that we have got the part of the Christ within us, that's what we're trying to find we should be doing with this body, because we're here for a purpose. God's purpose for us. That's the content right in the beginning. And so St. Paul goes on to say, we speak wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden mystery which God ordained. And so you might recall some of the readings from the book of Revelations, and they sound like a dream, very vivid dream, full of detail. And we have those dreams too. That's unworldly, those dreams, our recollections of those dreams. And that's what's meant by not of this world, but it has its own reality. Your dreams have your own reality, don't they? They've got their own reality, nothing to do with the world or anything. You might meet all sorts of strange people in your dreams, nothing to do with the bus timetable or how many teeth you've got or whether you're going to the dentist tomorrow or anything like that. So, St. Paul goes on to remind everybody, be clear in your mind the difference between getting on in the world or being successful in the world or all that sort of thing, being clever in the world. By all means do all that, but it's a long, long, long way away from the most important thing, which is working out, firstly, what you should be doing with yourself in alignment with God's will, and then prospering in the Spirit. Prospering in the Spirit. So in the gospel then, we often get an example, sort of like a tutorial from Jesus. And Jesus is talking to people. And so he's talking to them and he's trying to remind them about what St. Paul just said. There's stuff you know in the world, and it sort of makes you feel quite good because you know about it, all that sort of thing. But Jesus is saying to the people, that's all you know. You've stopped really learning just at the important time. Just when you've grown up and you can think for yourself. And what do? You still just wander around. So he says, when you see a cloud rising in the west, straight away you say it's going to rain. And when you see the wind blow from the south, you know it's going to be hot. Interesting, isn't it? Northern Hemisphere. When the south wind comes in our part of the world, it doesn't get hot. But he says, no, you know all that. And he says, whoop-de-doo. Well, he doesn't say whoop-de-doo, but he sort of thinks, he says to them, you are really forgetting to focus on all the things, this is Jesus talking, what I've come to teach you. Some of you have got it. Some of you have changed the way you've gone about things. I'm here to encourage you, to implore you. Open your hearts. This is Jesus talking. I'm imploring you. Open your heart and feel the Spirit of the Father within you. This is always his message when he's talking to people. And then he says, if you can really aspire to that, can you really put that into practice, you will find that you don't have to worry about physical things, that you'll reach a different level of interaction with the world. This is most important. A different level of interaction with the world when you're in the spiritual state, and that things will sort of come to you as they should, as you deserve. Now, we don't trust that when we're in the world, and so we scurry about and save stuff up and all the rest of it. Lots of stories about Jesus about that. What he's saying is, get into alignment, let the world go forward, and you go forward in the Spirit of the Lord, and these things will come to you. And then he finishes with this lovely phrase, for it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Isn't that wonderful? No money changes hands. It's just an effort from us and a welcoming from the Father and the Christ. That's discernment. That's discernment in the correct use of the word spiritually. So I suggest you think on this during the week. Meditate on it. Think about it. Think about it at the beginning of the day and think about it at the end of the day. It helps to cement it.